Hey everybody, welcome to session number 14, Putting It All Together. This is our final session in the MREA book club. Today we're going through pages 289 to 312, pages 289 to 312. Now, literally this section is called Putting It All Together. The last section of this book is where Gary takes all of the pieces he's been working us through all the other 13 sessions and the reading that goes along with that, and he's putting it all together. Now, he starts with a great story on page 289 and then 290, and it's called the $64,000 question. And what he's doing there is he's talking about the story, of course, of Dr. Joyce Brothers and how she was persistent. She knew exactly what she wanted. She got on the show. She used the winnings to be able to pay for furthering her education, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now, what he's saying there, he's making a point that focus is always found in top performers, in top producers' worlds. Focus is the absolute key. We have to narrow our focus if we want to get bigger results. Now, he goes on and he talks about on the bottom of page 290, there's 5 simple steps. And he says this, the bottom of 290, at the outset of this book, I made it clear that we believe high achievement may be simpler than you might think. Not easy, just simpler. What we meant by simpler is that what you need to do is clear, and it's absolutely possible for anyone to do it. However, when we say anybody can succeed, we do not mean everybody can succeed. Now, guys, I love that. And of course, we're at the top of page 291 now. I love that because what he's essentially saying, everybody can, not everyone will. And the path to success is simpler than we make it out to be. Again, we do a great job as human beings as taking the simple and making it complex. And what he's saying here is that the path to success is much more simple than we might first think. Now, further down on 291, he says this, the future of your real estate business depends directly on your ability to focus it in the proper direction. What he means by that is focus your energy, your efforts, your talents, your gifts, your abilities. Focus all of that in the right direction if you want your business to grow. Now, towards the bottom of 291, he says this, I want to suggest 5 simple steps that can lead you to great focus and open up a world of possibilities in your business and in your life. Now, if this isn't dog-eared and highlighted in your book, then it's probably about to be, because these are 5 great steps. And if you flip the page to 292, he starts unpacking these one at a time. So top of page 292, step number 1 of the 5 is create a personal plan and then make process your focus. Make process your focus. Now, he says there at the top, he says, the first thing I want to do is set high goals in key areas. He said, I want you to think and believe big. Big goals require big models. Again, we went over this earlier in our time together, going through the first part of this book, that the reason we're going to start with a millionaire real estate agent model, even if you're brand new right now, is because we have to have big models in order to have big goals, and then be able to track our progress along between where we are and getting to where it is we want to be. Now, he says there on 292, he says, what I know for sure is that the only achievement of big goals is only possible when the plan you're following is built from a big model. So what he's saying is this, and we went over this in a previous section, the big models force us to have big goals, force us to level up and work in a different way, a different pace, a different process, and it's going to get us different results. Now he talks about on bottom of page 292, aim high. And on 293, I like this. Top of page 293, he says, goals are an end point, a finish line. And what we do know is that when we cross the finish line, what do? We stop. We express our relief at having made it or cry for joy, and we stop. The thing you must be careful about with goal setting is to avoid letting your goals become ceilings to your future achievement. Now, here again, he's making the case for why big goals, why big models, because if we set goals too low, if we're using models that are too small, we cross that finish line, and the natural tendency is we take our foot off the gas. We just stop. We stop doing what got us to where we were. And as a result, we don't achieve what we want to achieve. So we want to set these big goals to stretch us. Aim big, he's saying. Aim high. All right, now, middle of 293, he says this. The big model will tell you when your plan needs focus, and your plan will always be about taking action. What I hope this book has revealed to you is that this action plan must always focus on 3 big rocks. Now, if you've been around KW any length of time, whether you work at KW or at a different brokerage, you've probably heard this concept of big rocks. And this is absolutely important because he says your action plan, meaning the action plan you're following to accomplish these big goals, it's going to focus on 3 big rocks or 3 areas that are most predictive of you hitting your goals. So the first one is this: leads. Use a database-driven approach with a focus on seller listing leads. So an action plan specifically around our leads. Now you guys know the second one because these are the 3 L's. The second one is listings. Get the number of seller listings you must get and market those listings systematically to gain additional buyer and seller leads. So we have to have a plan for the leads we need. We have to have a plan for the listings we need to get. And of course, the third L is leverage. And he says recruit capacity talent with an emphasis on your 3 key hires and require the talent to implement systems and tools. So first, we need a process and a plan for acquiring the leads and working the leads that we're going to need to get these goals. Second, how many listings do I need to take and what's the process for getting them, marketing them, and getting them closed? And then, of course, the leverage piece, finding the talent we need to help us along the way. Now, 294. He has a word up there, try, but it's an acronym. It says this: most people will never know who they really are or what they can really achieve because they fear to try. They fear to try. And he says try, if you look above that, he says it's an acronym for the real you. Guys, here's his point. It all starts with you taking the first step, taking a step of faith oftentimes, believing in yourself or borrowing someone else's belief in you, but it starts with you taking that first step. Now, once we're taking that step, we have a direction. We know which way we're going. Now, how do we stay on course? And that's what he takes us through on 294. In the middle, he's talking about time blocking. Here's what he says. The next thing I want you to do is begin to time block. The second step in making your business success happen is focusing on making sure the key things get done. Remember, he's told us before that success is doing the right things, not doing everything. So making sure the key things get done. He goes on to say, time blocking will help you with this. If everyone has the same amount of time, which we do, then success at a high level isn't about how much time you have, but rather how you use that time. So what he's saying is this: we all have the same number of hours in a day. And yet there are some agents that produce at an incredibly high level, and there's other agents that are mediocre at best. And he's saying the difference between those people likely is not how much time they have, it's what they do in the time they have. How do they use the time? How good of a steward of the time are they? And how focused is their use of that time on the things that actually matter? Now, bottom of 294, top of 295, he talks about business versus busyness. Guys, this is absolutely massive because there's so many of us that feel like as long as we're staying busy, that good things are going to happen. And his point is this, that busyness, just being busy, is not going to help you accomplish anything. It's not going to build your business. There's a huge distinction. What are we spending our time on? Look at the top of page 295. He says this, he says through time blocking, and he says they, meaning producers, successful people, they make sure that the have to gets done before the to do. That's an important one. Let's stop there. The have to gets done before the to do. So I know a lot of people love to-do lists. They write out big, long lists of things that they need to do. And that's great, but what his point here is that not all the things on that list are weighted equally. They don't all matter equally. So the top performers make sure they get the have to do stuff done first. Then, if they have time, they worry about their to-do list. He goes on to say this, they know what has to happen, and at the beginning of each year, month, week, and day, they open their calendar and block off the appropriate amount of time to get those things done. When you give every activity equal importance, prioritization happens only when deadlines and problems force you to react to them. So when we give everything equal importance, the only time we're going to get stuff done is when we're forced to react to something happening around us, under pressure most times. His point is time blocking, looking at what has to get done, identifying out of all the things you could do, figure out what you must do, figure out and allocate how much time it's going to take to get those have to or must do tasks accomplished, and then those should transfer into your calendar with the appropriate amount of time blocked off so that you don't do anything else until you get there. Now there's tools we use to do this, which tools like the 411 and the 135. Lots of resources available for this. But bottom line, at its simplest form, it's getting a grasp on a real clear idea, clarity around what has to get done and separating that from what could get done, what's most important in your business. Now, at the bottom of 295, he talks about budgeting your time. And he says, until your goals consistently hit your calendar, you won't consistently hit your goals. Now, that's a big one. I've had this highlighted since the first time I read this book. Read that again. Until your goals consistently hit your calendar, you won't consistently hit your goals. What he's saying is, are your goals big enough? And if they are they reflected on your calendar? So he's saying, have big goals, using big models. We're going to find a big process to get there. But that doesn't matter if those big goals don't show up on your calendar. What are the activities required to hit those big goals? And your calendar should tell me what those are, because they're going to translate straight across. They're going to be on your calendar. They're going to be some of the only things on your calendar. And it's probably where you're going to be spending the most time, because it's what matters most. Now, 296 towards the bottom, the focus your time blocking. He says this: the habit is not about blocking off all your time. That would be too rigid and impractical. So we're not talking about blocking off every hour of every day. That's not what he's talking about. It's clear as it can be right here in the book. The idea is to block off enough time for your key 20% activities. Now, what I can tell you personally, guys, as a coach and a trainer, this is the pushback I get a lot when I'm talking about this and I'm training on this over the course of the last 14 years. The pushback I get is, oh, I don't want to block it out because I'm going to need extra time. What if something comes up? He's addressing it right here. You only block off your top 20% activities, which frees you up and gives you time on your calendar to react and deal with all the fires and little things that pop up along the way. Now, what I can tell you firsthand, when I came to Keller Williams and I was taught time blocking in the 411 and the 135, I pushed back on it. I'm just being completely honest. I pushed back on it hard because I thought, oh, this is confining. I don't have any freedom. I have to put down everything I'm doing. And what's ironic is over the course of time, what I found, and as a result of using those tools, what I achieved, what I found was that those tools, while I thought at first they'd be confining, they were actually completely freeing. And here's what I mean by that. Let's use the 411 as an example. Now, the 411 is a tool we use at Keller Williams. It stands for 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. And it allows you to take this big, huge, hairy, audacious goal, your annual goal, and break it down into a monthly chunk and then into weekly bite-sized pieces. Now, the reason that's important is this. It gave me the freedom to where I knew that I was on pace this week to be on pace for my monthly goal. And as long as I stayed on pace for my monthly goal, I was automatically on pace to hit my annual goal. And so it gave me clarity and focus around the key activities, and it gave me peace of mind knowing that I wasn't just being busy, that I was doing what actually mattered and what moved the needle and got me closer to accomplishing my year-end goals. So what I thought at first was confining actually turned out to be completely freeing. And what it allowed me to do is at the end of a week, if we were at Thursday and I had accomplished all my top 20% stuff on my list, and I knew because of that tool that I got everything done, that I was on pace to get to where I needed to go, and the family called and said, hey, let's go do something. It's a Friday. Guys, here's the beauty. I could take off Friday and be present. I could be there with them knowing I'd already done a solid week's work. I was already on pace to hit my monthly and then my annual goal. And so I could give myself or afford myself an afternoon off to go be with my family. What I first thought was confining turned out to be incredibly freeing. Now, 297, along with that, because we can have all the tools in the world, but if we don't have accountability mixed in, then it's not effective. And so that's what he's talking about here on page 297. He says, get accountability to keep your focus. All agents reach a point where they say, I'm doing my best, and this is the best I can do. That's what we call a hard achievement ceiling, and no matter who you are, you will hit one. No matter who you are, you will hit one. Breaking through it will require your focus on the key areas and maintaining that focus over time. And that's probably the biggest challenge in this, right? Is it's easy to do anything for a short burst for a couple days. It's significantly harder to do it consistently over a long period of time. And that's where accountability comes in. He goes on to say at the bottom of 297, getting focus is easy. Keeping it over time is not. So we can all do a sprint. We can all do anything for a short period of time. What's challenging, though, is creating those habits and carrying them on consistently over a long period of time. Now, on page 298, he says this, second paragraph on page 298. Just why is long-term focus so hard to achieve? First, prolonged focus on the same issues can feel like routine. And routine can lead to boredom. Yeah, you've experienced that just like I have. When boredom sets in, attention drifts. And when your attention drifts, the craving for novelty creeps in and doing something new starts to appear more and more appealing. And all of a sudden, this distraction, this urge to need to do something different, to break up the monotony, starts taking hold, and it takes us away from the activities that are actually going to help us accomplish our goal and does nothing but distract us. Guys, this is so profound. What he's saying here is so true. They're universal truths. No matter what industry people are in, these truths carry out the same way in everybody's life. And the great part is, he's talking on page 299 now about what does that accountability need to look like? What should that accountability look like to keep us from falling victim to that draw to go to what's something new? The natural tendency we have as humans to get away from doing the routine things and find something new and exciting to do. Gary said it this way, and I'm sure I've shared with you guys before, but here's what Gary told us a long time ago. He says, success is incredibly boring. Success is incredibly boring. And he said the reason for it is because success is simply the repetition of the fundamentals. Success is incredibly boring because it's simply the repetition of the fundamentals. Guys, you understand that this business is not hard. It's not without hard work, but it's not complicated, it's not complex, and it's not hard. The reason more people don't have more success is because more of us don't have more focus. We have an extreme focus shortage in our industry specifically, and he's giving us the tools on how to combat that. Now, with that, don't just take Gary's word for it. I was watching something with Jerry Seinfeld, and I wrote this down because this was his quote. He said, the lack of focus in the world is the reason we have a lack of greatness. Guys, it's the same thing. It's a universal truth. It does not matter what industry or application. A lack of focus will always produce a lack of greatness. And so counter to that, we have a pathway. We know what's the solution. How do we keep our focus? How do we put ourselves in a position to best keep focused on what matters the most? And on page 299, he says that. So under accountability for refocus, he says this: accountability is an empowering process for continuous focus and refocus. Guys, you understand, you will get distracted. I will too. We all do. His point is that through accountability, we can get refocused as many times as it takes. It doesn't allow us to get so far out into the weeds that we've missed a ton of opportunity or a ton of time. Having regular, consistent accountability means that person can help refocus us on what's most important. He goes on to say in that section further down, unfortunately, most people have a warped understanding of accountability and little to no appreciation for how empowering it can be in their life. So most people, what he's saying is, don't understand or have a misunderstanding of what accountability is, and they underestimate how empowering it can be and the impact it can have on your life. He says you get further down, he says you get the best accountability through a relationship that follows a process to refocus you regularly. It sharpens you over time. Accountability shapes and reshapes your focus. Now, he goes on 299 and 300 to talk about the accountability process. The accountability process. Now, look at the middle of page 300. He says this: your goal numbers may be the target, but they mean nothing if you're not making regular measurements of your progress towards them. Monthly and weekly goals need to have monthly and weekly progress assessments to be meaningful, meaning we have to be able to check in on a monthly and weekly basis to know if we're on track to hitting the bigger goal. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels. He goes on to say, at any point in the game, you've got to know the score and how far ahead or behind you may be. Now, here's the other beautiful part of accountability and the tool of the 411 specifically. At any given point, it tells you if you're ahead or behind, because there will be weeks where you are behind. That's just the fact of the matter. You get sick, life happens, you'll be distracted. There'll be times where you are behind. And the beautiful part about the 411 is it provides you weekly 52 checkpoints throughout the year to make minor course corrections if you're off pace or behind pace. 52 course corrections. What do most agents do? Most agents get to the end of the year and say, oh, I was way off my goal. And they have no idea why or how it happened. Using the 411 allows you to have 52 weekly checkpoints to make minor course corrections, minor adjustments that over the course of time keep you on pace and on path to hit your goal. Now he says at the bottom of 300, make no mistake, You cannot effectively do this alone. This is the power of accountability. Page 301. In that first paragraph, he says this: having an outside perspective helps strip away the excuses, because we all have plenty of those, helps strip away the excuses so you can see your actions and the results in a very honest, unblinking manner. Guys, this is why having a coach is so important, because we gain that outside perspective, the objective, unbiased perspective, because you all know that we lie to ourselves better than we lie to anybody else. We'll excuse away stuff to ourselves that we would never tolerate from anybody else. And his point here is, for effective accountability, you have to have somebody outside that cares enough about you that they're going to tell you with candor and yet with compassion when your excuses don't hold muster, when you're off pace. They're going to tell you what you don't necessarily want to hear, and it's absolutely what you need to hear if you want to achieve your goals. Now, he goes on there to say, that's why nearly all high achievers have coaches and consultants. Even the best of the best, Mia Hamm, Tiger Woods, Marion Jones, and Michael Jordan, all have a coach or coaches to keep them focused and on track to their big goals. Here he says, and I have this underlined in my book, accountability is the relationship of choice for champions. So maybe as you're reading through this, maybe the word accountability threw you off. Maybe you've had a bad experience with what you thought or somebody else thought was accountability in the past. Your opportunity here is to let that go. Get a clear and unbiased understanding of what true accountability is, and set your world up to where you have accountability in all the areas that matter most to you. Now look at page 302. Top of page 302, he says, one final thought on accountability: frequency matters. The more you try to achieve, or the greater the personal growth you seek, the more frequent your accountability will need to be. So find somebody in your world, work accountability into your world, and set up the checkpoints and the frequency of those accountability conversations to be very, very regular, very frequent. Now, 302, number 4, he says, make sure your environment supports your focus. This is a big one, guys. This is huge. And this section is a lot of what led to the One Thing book that he later wrote. Here's what he says: environment is one of the most underrated, catch you by surprise issues of success. Further down, your environment is a critical issue to your success, and that it must clearly support your goals. So I did a group coaching last year, and it was a business planning, end of year type thing. We did a 12-week program, and we were talking about environments, and one whole week's call was on environment. And I had students post pictures of their environment where they do the lead generation for real estate. And they had to post them in this Facebook group that we had. And what was amazing to me when I saw the pictures, most of the places that they posted, I wouldn't want to work in. They looked like dungeons. They were terrible. How is your environment set up? I'm not saying it has to look any certain way, but if it's not inviting, if it's not set up with all the things you need, if you're not setting yourself up for success inside of that environment, you won't regularly visit that environment. And if you're not regularly visiting the environment, you're not likely to do regularly the things you need to do to hit your goals. So look at your environment. Your environment matters so much. Where you're doing your business, who you're surrounding yourself with. We'll talk more about that. Now, 304, he talks about the physical environment. The key issue of your physical environment is productivity. Does your office space, furniture, equipment, and tools support your productivity goals? That's a question for you. Look around you right now where you're watching this. Does your environment support you hitting your goals? Further down, he says, either they support your efforts to keep you focused, or they distract you with an aching back and irritated eyes. Further down yet again, he says your systems are also a part of your physical environment. How the phones are answered, messages taken, or calls directed, what, how, and where records are stored, how easily forms and data can be found and used. These are all physical systems that can enhance or reduce your ability to be productive. Now on page 305, he talks about your people environment. The other main environment issue is people. If your physical environment is about productivity, then your people environment is about energy and synergy. So guys, this comes down, if you've read The Miracle Morning, and he talks about the savers. How does he have his miracle morning? Savers is an acronym, and it's a routine he does every single morning. That's one of the examples we're talking about. That can be your people environment. What are you allowing in? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you starting your day off, which we'll talk more about? Top of page 306, he says, don't leave the architecture of your environment to chance. Shape it, craft it, and make it one that helps you fulfill your promise. What he's talking about there is your promise you made to yourself for hitting the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. Page 306, number 5, he says, keep your energy to maintain your focus. Keep your energy to maintain your focus. So we've got the physical environment. We've got the people environment. Energy matters, because even in the best of environments, if you have low energy or no energy, the environment doesn't do you any good. 306, middle of the first paragraph, he says this: you can't reach big goals without a big sustained effort, and a big sustained effort requires big sustained energy. Now, he outlines his energy plan on page 307, or starting on page 307. And you can see he goes through on page 307, starts the 5 areas of energy, okay? Now, if you look on page 308, figure 1, he actually gives us these. And those 5 energies are this: meditate and pray, which is spiritual energy; exercise and eat, which is physical energy; hug, kiss, and laugh, which is emotional energy; plan and calendar, which is mental energy; and lead generate, which is business energy. So the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Plan has 5 parts, and they're on figure 1 on page 308, okay? So that's what he's going to be unpacking as we wrap this section up. Bottom line, here's what we know. Your environment matters, your mindset matters, and your energy matters. So guys, I cannot encourage you enough, as we've gone through 14 weeks together going through the MREA book. One time's never enough. I read this book multiple times a year, and I have for 14 years. And I'm going to encourage you to do the exact same thing, because every time you read this book, you're going to take something additional and different from it. Because just like the river, you're going to be a different person when you step into the book, and the book is going to hit you differently because you're going to be in a different place. So guys, thank you so much for being with us. Make sure your environment matches your goals. Make sure you are giving yourself every opportunity to implement the models and systems of this book. Please reach out to me. Let me know if you need anything, if I can help you guys along the way. Please also stay tuned, as we're going to bring in mega agents into this group, in the Facebook Mastermind group. And we're going to interview them on certain areas of this book, on practically how they have and continue to apply the truths we've just learned over the course of the last 14 weeks. So if you're not watching this inside the Facebook group, go over to Facebook group, look down in the video description, you'll see a link. Join us over there for the MREA Mastermind Book Club Facebook group. Thank you so much, guys. Talk to you later.